Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Yaniv Shimoni. Yaniv is a co-founder at Take2 AI. Yaniv, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, JP. Really appreciate it.
So Yaniv, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as a startup founder with Take2 AI?
Before moving to the United States 5 years ago, I started a company in the energy space, a liquid petroleum gas company, ran it for 5 years, and then sold it to Blue Square, which is a public energy conglomerate. I then wanted to transition into tech. I moved to the US, to the Bay Area, did my MBA at Stanford Business School, which is also where I met my co-founder. I assumed different roles, such as an entrepreneur in residence at Atomic VC, did a bunch of VC gigs as well, and then basically post-graduation started at Take2 with my co-founder Kaushik. Kaushik is also a classmate from the GSB, from Stanford. He spent 2 years doing research on skill-based hiring. And essentially the premise is a lot of these high volume roles that skills data is not really useful to evaluate fit for, such as high volume sales roles. How can we leverage demonstration data to basically help companies find the best fit job applicants? And he did the research with world-renowned professors, with companies like Burning Glass Data, ERUP, and the insights from the research led to the company. And we also have Karthik with us on the team, who's a Stanford computer science master's, who spent the last 12 years on AI, natural language processing. And we basically post-graduation co-founded Take2. And here we are today.
Yeah, thank you for the background. So obviously, between yourself and your co-founders, quite a stellar background. Talk to us about what you're building. Tell us all about Take2 AI, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
So the insights from the research stand at the foundation of the company. Some professors that were involved in the research and were advisors in the research are actually now backing the company. They're HR leaders from companies like Visa, Disney, HP, and Google. And recently, about 4 months ago now, we raised our seed round from leading future of work investors in the US, such as Sempervirent and Reach Capital, who led the round. So what is Take2? Take2 is an AI-powered job simulation platform for sales, recruiting, and training. What we do is we help companies generate tailor-made simulations of real-world sales scenarios that help vet job applicants for skills, behavioral attributes, and cultural fit. In a nutshell, by leveraging generative AI, we recreate company and role-specific sales scenarios, right? Such as sales calls, for example, that don't only provide high signal performance data for the employers, but they also immerse the job applicants in the role, which leads to fewer misshires and reduce short-term attrition. So in other words, what we do is we help companies predict who would be the best job applicants out of their job applicants and would be the best fit for their open sales roles. And the metrics that we see are phenomenal. 3 times reduction in time to hire, 50% boost in quota attainment, and 2x increase in employee retention. I can get it into, I'll stop there. I want to hear your follow-up questions, but beyond that, I can tell you why we're focusing on sales and how the product works exactly.
Thank you so much for that, Yaniv. Yeah, so much to dig into there just in that introduction alone. Let's go straight into why you chose high volume sales, and then we can talk about some of the successes that you're already having. Those numbers are quite standout. So let's jump into it. How did you guys pick the first target market segment and walk us through that journey?
So first of all, what do we mean by sales, right? A lot of companies are targeting tech, B2B sales. We're actually focused on the 80%, the high volume, repeatable entry-level sales roles. There's over 1.4 million open sales roles in the United States each and every month. And the majority of them, as I said, are high volume repeatable roles, call center sales, inside sales, in-store sales. These are roles that are extremely difficult to hire for. I'll name 3 reasons. First, it's very hard to infer skills and fit from their resumes. So there's heavy reliance on interviews and gut feeling. And because a lot of the degree requirements were removed for these roles, sometimes you have north of 1,000 job applicants for every open role, which means it's an endless amount of time reviewing and interviewing talent. And finally, there's a strong misalignment of job expectations that leads to mishires that churn shortly after they join. I'll give you an example. Someone quits their job and is looking for a role in a call center as a call center sales rep. And on paper, it sounds cool to do cold calls, but some people just join the job and after 2 days get fed up and tired of having people hang up on their faces. So they just quit. And what ends up happening is there's extremely high attrition because it's just not a good fit. And if you take all these 3 reasons combined, it leads to extremely negative outcomes for employers that cost billions of dollars. 1 in 3 salespeople churn each year. That's 3 times more than any other occupation. And with an average cost of $100K for every sales hire that quits and 4 months to backfill, you're left companies with constantly backfilling roles and hiring for people because half of their workforce quits every year, essentially. So how do we basically solve that problem, JP? In an ideal world, right, companies could evaluate their job applicants on the actual job before deciding who to hire. I'm hiring you, JP, for a field sales roles. I want to check whether you can call leads, whether you can manage customer objections, whether you can craft emails with the right etiquette, whether you can pitch a product. But that's obviously not practical until recently. But we're building the closest thing possible. We got to an inflection point where LLMs can actually help us generate hyper-realistic real-world sales scenarios in the context of a specific company that actually allows you to measure things such as customer centricity, empathy, tonality, delivery, and we're able to help you automate this process and help score job applicants for your specificity of your company and your role and help you predict who would be a quickest ramp up, highest fit job applicant for your company and for your sales role.
So this is amazing, and it's targeting a market that has huge potential because it's applicable to all businesses in all industries. And I guess now is a good time to bring up the fact that you've recently secured some funding with some amazing backers. Talk to us about where you're at now and some of the early successes that you're having with customers who've used the platform and are getting the immediate benefit.
Yeah, we've had some tremendous case studies, which also basically led to the funding. I won't be able to name them here, but we focused on enterprise clients. So we're focused on very large enterprise customers who are hiring who have very large sales organizations. I can give you one example of a case study. It's an energy company that had over 100 open sales roles each and every month. And their challenges were that a very high 90-day attrition. Over 52% of their sales force attrite every single 3 months. So they were constantly backfilling. They were constantly backfilling their roles and hiring more and more salespeople. And basically, when they started using Take2, it allowed them to do 2 things. One, open up the hatch to new job applicants who didn't have the exact background that the role required. So for example, initially, they were hiring for people who've been in solar in the past and who've done the job in the past. And our simulation that allows you to predict who would be able to do these tasks and who would have these sales orientations allow them to attract and evaluate people who otherwise they wouldn't evaluate solely based on their resumes. And so what the impact was is that within 4 months of adopting Take2, their attrition rates went down from 52% to 20%. So we slashed their 90-day attrition rates by half, and their sales quota actually increased by 15%. What they ended up happening is they used Take2 in the top of their funnel, And now they rolled it out across their entire organization. And I'll just give you a quote from their CEO. He said, Take2 has brought a lot more discipline and clarity in our recruiting process. The correlation between the scores we see for a candidate and the quality of hire is extremely high. We're now using Take2 as the sole screening criteria at the top of our funnel.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
I want to spend a little bit of time now talking about the team that you've assembled. You obviously led with the introduction of you and your co-founders. So we know at the top level, you guys have a phenomenal leadership group, but can you give us a look behind the scenes of the current team, breaking it down by size, skill sets, background of the individuals, and what it's like to work there, speaking to an audience of AI and data professionals who are intrigued by what you're telling us? What would a day in the life, typical project life cycle look like for a team member at Take2 AI?
So essentially, we moved from the Bay Area to New York. What was it? It was a year ago now. So our offices are here in Manhattan, and we really believe in building a strong culture. So although we're flexible in terms of hybrid versus being in the office, we feel like the most conducive and the best way to work together is in person in the office, especially when you're a lean and a small team and you want rapid feedback loops. The majority of our team is technical. What really matters to us is twofold, I would say. One, people who are extremely interested in innovation, right? Like we're really in an inflection point. Everything that has to do with natural language processing, LLMs, everything is changing so rapidly, and people who are excited to come to the forefront of technology and to like experience the change, the constant change, right? Things are changing on a weekly basis, would thrive here. And that's what we're looking for. And in terms of specific and specific skills, a lot of on the technical side, a lot of the people that we're looking at or hiring at have hired are people who have both experience in big tech. So a lot of people who, have experience working as full stacks at Amazon or Google, but also who have that drive or that hunger to work in a smaller team in an early stage startup where you have a lot of impact, where you have a lot of ownership. So those are two criteria that we look at: big tech experience, but then a drive to join an early team where everything that you do has a ton of impact, and the iteration and the speed are constant and are part of the ethos of the company and essentially a day-to-day occurrence. That's on the technical side. And then we have our sales team, go to market. Again, this whole notion of, I think what really matters for us is that notion of moving fast, breaking things, learning quickly, and adapting. And we're constantly iterating based on the inputs that we're getting from our customers as well as from prospects. And of course, finally, I'll just say our advisors are extremely helpful. They're involved in the business. They do presentations in large HR and sales conferences for Take2, and whether it's giving us advice or whether it's making intros to their colleagues. We're talking about the CHROs of companies like Visa, Disney, HP. They're tremendously helpful, and they really helped us get to a point where we were able to show the success that we've had with early customers and that secure our seed round.
Amazing. So that leads nicely then into the exciting part of what we want to talk about, which is what's next. So you've already set the stage. The product is clearly something that has tremendous impact, amazing utilization of AI, and the case studies that you've been able to provide really speak to just how transformative it can be. You're assembling a talented team, and you've got the backing both in funding and in the advisory capabilities. So when you look at next 1 to 2 years, particularly the near-term roadmap, what are you excited about? What are you and the team at Take2 hoping to accomplish? Is there a particular milestone that you're working towards? But when you look at the next year, what excites you about the next chapter of your journey?
Sure. So a lot of the things that we've been focused on right now, initially we've built a standalone product that company early adopters have used, and we've demonstrated the tremendous impact that it has on their sales organization, whether it's increasing quota, improving retention, etc. Now we're hyper focused on creating applicant tracking system integrations, integrating our solution into their stack, so the employers and the companies don't need to change their behavior, and making our product scalable and essentially product led. So our product right now, as we've deployed with large enterprises, there was a lot of hand holding with these employers and catering our product to every specific employer. And right now we're building and gearing towards having a product-led motion where essentially a company can create their own customization using the backend that we've built. And so companies will have their own admin panel, and they'll be able to use our solution to create their specific scenarios. So what do I mean by that? For example, let's take one simulation as an example. We have the modality of having a sales call, right? You want to evaluate, or you either want to evaluate a new sales job applicant or train an existing employee. They jump into a phone call with a bot that is essentially a customer. They'll engage for 10 minutes, and during that simulation of a phone call, we'll be able to test them for things like their tone, their customer centricity, how much empathy did they employ, did they deliver the right content, did they talk about the budget and authority. Essentially, did they have a successful call with that prospect? What we are gearing towards right now is having the companies be able to change the context and adapt the bot. For example, do we want the customer to object more or less? Do we want the customer to be more heated, to want to be less patient? So being able to adapt the AI agent to the specificity of the company and giving them a place to put their prompts and making the context very specific to them, to their industry, to their product, so that the simulation is hyper realistic and hyper focused on that company. So that's really where we want to get to in the next 3 to 6 months, is having a product that's fully integrated into the company's stacks, as well as it's fully basically self-managed and doesn't require hand-holding, which would mean that we're able to scale it across tens of thousands of companies. And to do that, we're actively hiring and seeking for back-end, full stack, and AI engineers.
Staying on the topic then of active hiring right now, I know this is something that we're discussing with you and working with you on, but we always like to finish on a message to potential future employees. If you were speaking to a candidate today who you felt could be a good addition to Take2 AI, what is it that you tell them that gets them excited and interested enough to join Take2 over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
Sure. There's a few things. First of all, I think we're really well positioned to win. Although we're early, we have the same advisory board as very large HR tech unicorns. We're backed by the best investors out there. We have a very strong team, and we already have secured customers that are Fortune 500 companies, despite being so early. So the first thing I'll tell them is you're joining a winning team and you're going to be part of a success story. And the people that join us early on will be the leaders of tomorrow. The second thing I'll say is if you're excited about AI. A lot of companies say that they use AI, right? And eventually it's simple open AI integrations or ChatGPT. What we do is truly cutting edge, right? We're building LLMs and integrating LLMs as a core of our product, and everything that we do revolves around AI and is very innovative. And I feel like that's very appealing to a lot of to people who are interested in seeing what are the capabilities out there. Because for a lot of people who are not aware of where technology is today, and when it comes to AI, they would think simple things like just simple prompting with ChatGPT. But the capabilities that exist out there today are truly remarkable, and it just takes a few days for someone to work here to see the quick iterations, the feedback loop, and the kind of innovation that we're building. Last thing I'll tell them is, in terms of the culture, we're really hard workers, but everyone here is equal. We're a small team. Everyone has tremendous impact and everyone has a say here. We value everyone's opinion. So it's truly joining a team and becoming an integral part of the team immediately from day one.
Yaniv, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. We've been looking forward to doing this one with you for quite a while now, since we first got to know you and what you're doing at Take2. An amazing journey and incredible success in just a relatively short time frame, but it's no surprise given the results that you've been able to demonstrate. So we're very excited to see what you and the team can accomplish in the months and years to come. We look forward to working with you on that journey and can't wait to have you back on the show again in the very near future.
Thank you so much for having me, JP. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.